Welcome to reality. You're now on the Code of Mind channel. What would happen to the world if everyone truly lived their desires? Awakening is not magic. It's not a fairy tale where you suddenly realize something and instantly become someone else. It's an internal shift that cannot be ignored. At some point, you begin to understand that your life is not built by your own rules, that most of your decisions were made unconsciously, that much of what you do is repetition. A program, a script. You didn't choose what to believe. You didn't choose how to react. You simply accepted it as it is, as normal. And one day, it stops being enough. You can no longer watch calmly as everything keeps repeating. You want out. You want to understand. You want to breathe differently. To awaken doesn't mean escaping everything. It means starting to choose. Not automatically. Not because that's how it's done, but because you decide. You no longer want to live in a system where everything is predefined. You want to feel what is truly yours. And this awakening, it's not loud, it's quiet, but irreversible. An awakened person is uncomfortable. They cannot be controlled. They ask questions that don't always have ready answers. They stop staying silent, stop tolerating, stop being like everyone else. And this becomes obvious. The system we live in is built to keep you within boundaries. You are supposed to fit in, to follow a trajectory. School, work, exhaustion, old age. You are supposed to obey. Not question, not look deeper. But when you awaken, you break this formula. You no longer fit. You are no longer afraid to try, to change, to walk away. You no longer settle for less. Now imagine there are many like you. Millions of people who no longer play imposed roles, no longer believe in limitations, no longer fear stepping beyond the system. That is frightening, because it destroys the old structure. But that's the point. The old must collapse so something real can emerge, something human, alive, a world where people don't pretend, they live. Many fear this idea. If everyone awakens and lives as they want, there will be chaos. People will take from each other, break boundaries, act selfishly. It sounds logical if you confuse desire with instinct, if you believe a human is a creature that will immediately take what isn't theirs. But that is not awakening. That is primitive. Awakening is not acting without control. It is rising above fear and beginning to live consciously. A truly awakened person does not take from others, not because they are not allowed to, but because they don't need to. They have their own. They have an inner code. I don't take what isn't mine because I know how to create my own. If someone says, I'm awakened so I can take any car, any person, any power, they are not awakened. They simply removed the leash and ran into their own chaos. That is not freedom. That is collapse. Freedom without awareness is destruction, but awakening is when you know yourself so deeply that you no longer need anything from others. You don't rob a bank because you don't live in scarcity. You don't play by the rules of aggression because you are no longer inside fear. True fulfillment is when you don't need to take. You create. Now you may ask, how do we live if everyone awakens? How will bills be paid? How will the world function? Who will take out the trash? Fix pipes? Run electricity? Teach children? Bake bread? Drive buses? And that's a fair question. But here is the truth. An awakened person does not escape society. They may, but they don't have to. Awakening is not about running away. It's about staying in the system without being controlled by it. You can still take your child to school, you can still work, you can still pay bills, but now you do it consciously, not as a prisoner. You no longer live paycheck to paycheck. You begin to build your own system. And here's what's interesting. If everyone awakens, necessary professions will not disappear. They will simply be performed by people who choose them consciously. A baker will bake because they love it. A teacher will teach because it is their gift. Even a plumber will be a master of their craft and not a broken, exhausted person. Yes, the system will change. Maybe money will transform from control into exchange. Maybe new systems will emerge. But right now, we don't believe that people can work out of love. The world runs on fear, on survival, on obligation. People do what pays, not what they love. They choose what's easier, not what's true. They agree because they have to, not because they want to. And that's why we have burned out doctors, angry teachers, exhausted parents, empty faces in public transport, pointless careers, millions of people waiting for the weekend as if it's salvation. Now imagine everyone doing what they are truly meant to do, not forcing themselves into offices if they are creators, not working with people if they are artists, not sitting at a register if they feel capable of more. What happens? Order appears, not a dead structure, but a living balance. You no longer trade time for money. You create, and it has value. You do what is yours, and you are rewarded for it. Not because you sold yourself, but because you offered something real. This is a new structure. No domination, only interaction. No pressure, only choice. No fear, only inner discipline. Because when a person is in their place, they don't destroy, they create. The system does not fear people. It fears independent people. It doesn't touch those who quietly follow the script: home, work, news, debt, exhaustion. They are easy to control. But the awakened one is dangerous, not because they are aggressive, but because they see. They recognize lies. They feel manipulation. They don't blindly believe. They verify. They don't watch the news. They look deeper. The system fears those who no longer ask for permission, who don't wait for approval, who don't need validation because they have an inner core. It needs you afraid, dependent, exhausted, because only then are you controllable. Through money, through fear, through guilt, through comparison. But when you step beyond, the system trembles, because one awakened person influences hundreds. And that is its greatest fear, that you become contagious, not through words, but through your state. The system cannot fight someone who is no longer afraid to be themselves. Even now, it is becoming fragile. More and more people are awakening. It is losing control, but consciousness cannot be reversed. So what happens next? What do you do once you are free? This question comes to everyone. I woke up. I found myself. I'm living my truth. And then, what now? This is where depth begins, because after awakening, after freedom, after the first victories and disappointments, you face the real question: why am I here? What is my purpose? Who can I be for others, not just for myself? You are no longer surviving. You are no longer chasing the external. You stand in silence. And for the first time, you can truly choose where to direct your energy. And this is where creation begins, not for approval, not for recognition, but because you have something to give. You simply live your truth. And by doing that, you give others permission to do the same. This is not the end. This is the beginning of a real life, where you are not a cog, not an escapee, not a guru, but simply alive, real, free. Awakening does not happen in one day. It does not require urgency, but it begins the moment you stop believing that life has to look like everyone else's. You don't have to change the whole world, but you can change your perception, and sometimes that is already enough. Thank you for being with me on this channel. I wish you the best possible branch of reality. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Take care.